I stared at the two pink lines on the pregnancy test, my heart racing as I sat on the cold tile of my office bathroom floor. 5 minutes before the biggest presentation of my career, and here I was, discovering I was going to be a mother. My name is Callie, and this moment should have been pure joy. Instead, it felt like the universe had a twisted sense of timing. Callie, we need you in the conference room. Sarah's voice echoed through the bathroom, making me jump. I quickly shoved the test into my blazer pocket, splashed some water on my face, and straightened my shoulders. Coming. I called back, my voice steadier than I felt. The presentation went perfectly. I barely remember giving it. My mind kept drifting to the test in my pocket, feeling like it was burning a hole through the expensive fabric. The moment it ended, I practically ran to my car, my fingers already dialing Ethan's number. Hey, can you meet me for lunch? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. I know you're busy, but it's important. There was a pause on the other end. I've got a client meeting in 30 minutes. Can it wait until tonight? Something in his tone made my stomach twist. No, it really can't. Please? 20 minutes at Carlos. He sighed. Fine, 20 minutes. I got to Carlos first and chose a quiet corner booth. When Ethan walked in, his architect's portfolio tucked under his arm, he looked distracted. He barely kissed my cheek before sliding into his seat. Everything okay? He asked, already checking his phone. You sounded weird on the call. I took a deep breath. I'm pregnant. His fingers froze over the screen. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The bustling lunch crowd seemed to fade away as I watched his face, waiting for any sign of the excitement I'd felt earlier. Are you sure? He finally asked, his voice carefully neutral. I pulled out the test and placed it on the table between us. Pretty sure. I'll make a doctor's appointment to confirm, but... I trailed off, watching him stare at the test like it might bite him. This isn't really the best timing, he said slowly. With the Peterson project just starting and your promotion. Is there ever really a perfect time? I tried to smile, but it felt forced. We've been married for 3 years, Ethan. We've talked about having kids. Yeah, eventually. He ran a hand through his dark hair, a nervous habit I usually found endearing. Now it just made my chest tight. Have you thought about what this means? Your career, our lifestyle, everything's going to change. Of course I've thought about it. I've been thinking about nothing else for the past 2 hours. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. But we can figure it out together, right? Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then stood up abruptly. I need to get to that meeting. We'll talk more tonight, okay? He was gone before I could respond, leaving me alone with an untouched glass of water and a pregnancy test on the table. As I gathered my things, I noticed an older woman at the next table watching me with sympathy in her eyes. First baby, she asked softly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Don't worry, dear. Sometimes it takes them a while to come around. She smiled kindly. My mother-in-law always said men need time to grow into the idea of fatherhood. My mother-in-law. The thought of telling Lorraine sent a chill down my spine. She'd been dropping hints about grandchildren since our wedding day, but somehow I doubted this news would bring us closer. As I drove back to work, I couldn't shake the feeling that this baby wasn't just going to change our lives. It was going to expose cracks in our foundation I hadn't even known were there. And something about Ethan's reaction told me this was just the beginning. Moving in with Lorraine was Ethan's idea. He said it made sense with the baby coming, but 3 weeks into living under my mother-in-law's roof, I was starting to think it was a carefully orchestrated form of torture. Callie, dear, are you really having coffee? Lorraine's voice drifted over my shoulder as I poured myself a much-needed cup. In your condition? I took a deliberate sip. My doctor said 1 cup a day is perfectly fine. She busied herself reorganizing the already immaculate kitchen counter. In my day, we were much more careful. But I suppose modern mothers have different priorities. The way she said modern made it sound like a curse word. I gripped my mug tighter, counting backwards from 10 in my head. Speaking of priorities, she continued, Ethan mentioned you're still working full-time? Yes, I am. I checked my phone, praying for a work emergency to rescue me from this conversation. The baby isn't due for another 6 months. Well, I just hope you're not putting unnecessary stress on my grandchild. She paused, then added with a tight smile, or yourself, of course. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Ethan's face appeared on the screen, and I nearly knocked over my coffee in my rush to answer. "Hey," I said, stepping into the hallway. "Please tell me you're coming home for dinner tonight." "About that?" His voice had that apologetic tone I was hearing more and more lately. "The Peterson project is behind schedule. I need to stay late." I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. "Again? That's the third time this week." "I know, I'm sorry. But this client is huge for the firm. You understand, right?" From the kitchen, I could hear Lorraine humming as she rearranged my carefully organized pregnancy vitamins. "Sure," I said. "I understand." That evening, dinner was excruciating. Lorraine had invited her church friends over, apparently a weekly tradition I was now expected to participate in. I sat through 2 hours of thinly veiled criticism about everything from my career to my choice of prenatal vitamins. "Did you know," one of them said, helping herself to more casserole, "that Lorraine raised both her children without any help? And she still managed to keep a spotless home." Lorraine beamed. "Different times, Margaret. These days, young women want it all: career, family, independence. Sometimes I wonder if they realize what they're sacrificing." "I'm not sacrificing anything," I said, my voice sharper than intended. "I'm adding to my life, not subtracting." The table fell silent. Lorraine's smile didn't waver, but her eyes hardened. "Of course, dear. I just hope you're not spreading yourself too thin. After all, we wouldn't want anything to happen to the baby." Something in her tone made me pause. There was more than judgment there, something darker, almost like fear. I remembered Ethan mentioning once that he'd had a sister, but the topic was strictly off-limits. Later that night, as I was putting away leftovers, I found an old photo that had slipped behind the refrigerator. It showed a younger Lorraine holding a baby girl, her smile genuine and warm, nothing like the carefully controlled expressions I was used to seeing. "Where did you find that?" Lorraine's voice made me jump. She snatched the photo from my hands, her fingers trembling slightly. "It was behind the fridge." "Is that?" "It's nothing," she cut me off. "Just an old photo. You should get some rest. You're looking rather pale." As she hurried away, clutching the photo to her chest, I heard her muttering under her breath, "We have to be more careful this time. We have to do better." I stood in the kitchen, my hand instinctively moving to my growing belly. For the first time since moving in, I felt more than just annoyed or frustrated. I felt afraid. There was something wrong in this house, something hidden behind Lorraine's perfect facade and Ethan's constant absences. My phone buzzed again, another message from Ethan. "Don't wait up. Working late again." I looked toward the stairs where Lorraine had disappeared with the photo. Whatever secrets this family was hiding, I had a feeling I was about to become part of them, whether I wanted to or not. The attic was the only place in Lorraine's house where I could breathe freely. I'd started sneaking up there during my lunch breaks, working remotely to escape the suffocating atmosphere downstairs. That's where I found the box. It was tucked behind a stack of old magazines, unmarked except for a small date written in faded ink, 1992. Inside, beneath yellowed newspaper clippings and photographs, I found a hospital bracelet with the name Emma Thompson printed on it. My hands trembled as I picked up one of the newspaper articles. The headline made my stomach lurch. "Local teen's death raises questions about alternative medicine." "What are you doing up here?" I nearly dropped the box. Ethan stood at the top of the attic stairs, his face unreadable in the dim light. I held up the article. "Who was Emma?" He crossed the room in 3 quick strides and snatched the box from my hands. "You shouldn't be going through our family's private things." "Your sister." I pressed, watching his jaw tighten. "Ethan, talk to me. What happened to her?" "It's not important." He shoved the box onto a high shelf. "And Mother would be upset if she knew you were up here." "Mother would be upset?" I stood up, anger finally overtaking my caution. "That's what you're worried about? You're never home. You barely talk to me anymore, and all you care about is keeping your mother happy. That's not fair." "No, what's not fair is finding out about your dead sister from a newspaper clipping." My voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then quickly looked away, but not before I caught a glimpse of the name on the screen. "Claire. The Peterson project?" I asked quietly. His silence was answer enough. "Who's Claire?" "My colleague." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "She's helping with the project." "Is that all she is?" The attic suddenly felt airless. Ethan ran his hand through his hair. That nervous gesture I once found endearing now made me want to scream. "She's just someone I can talk to," he finally said. "About everything that's happening. The baby, the pressure. And you can't talk to me?" I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling the slight swell of my stomach beneath my shirt. "Your wife? The mother of your child? It's complicated. Because of Emma?" I cut in. "Because of whatever happened to her?" His face hardened. "You don't know anything about that. Then tell me." I stepped closer, forcing him to look at me. "Help me understand why your mother looks at me like I'm going to break something precious. Why you can't seem to stand being in the same room as me anymore." The buzz of his phone cut through the tension again. This time, he answered it. "Claire? Yeah, I'll be there in 20. He turned to me, his expression pleading. "We'll talk about this later, okay?" "I promise." I watched him hurry down the attic stairs, leaving me alone with the dust and secrets. As his footsteps faded, I heard movement below. Lorraine, probably hovering near the bottom of the stairs, pretending not to eavesdrop. With shaking hands, I reached up and pulled the box back down. If no one would tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. The articles painted a tragic picture. Emma Thompson, 16, died after complications from an herbal treatment. The details were vague, but one quote stood out, from a younger Lorraine, defending her choice of alternative medicine. "I only wanted what was best for her. Sometimes a mother's love means making difficult choices." Footsteps on the stairs made me quickly replace the box. Lorraine appeared, holding a cup of tea. "I thought you might need this," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "It's a special blend, very soothing for expectant mothers." I stared at the steaming cup, remembering the articles about herbal remedies. "No, thank you. I'm not thirsty." Something flickered across her face. Hurt? Anger? Fear? "You really should take better care of yourself, dear. For the baby's sake." As she set the cup down and left, her words from the article echoed in my head. Sometimes a mother's love means making difficult choices. I had a feeling I was about to face some difficult choices of my own. At 7 months pregnant, I'd mastered the art of avoiding Lorraine's special tease and navigating around her constant hovering. What I couldn't avoid was the growing distance between Ethan and me, stretching wider with each passing day. I was organizing the nursery, the only room in the house Lorraine hadn't tried to control, when I heard voices from below. Ethan was home early, for once. "You can't keep doing this." His voice drifted up through the heating vent. "She's not Emma." "I'm trying to protect her," Lorraine snapped back. "The way I should have protected." "By what? Sneaking herbs into her food?" "I saw you this morning." My hand instinctively went to my stomach. The morning sickness that had mysteriously returned last week suddenly made more sense. "Those remedies are perfectly safe," Lorraine insisted. "If you'd just let me help." "Like you helped Emma?" Ethan's voice cracked. "We're not having this conversation again." Footsteps thundered up the stairs, and I quickly pretended to fold baby clothes. Ethan appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted. "Hey," he said, forcing a smile. "Need help?" I held up a tiny onesie. "Where's Claire?" "Isn't this usually your late night at the office?" His smile faltered. "Callie, I saw you having lunch with her yesterday," I continued, carefully refolding the onesie. "At that little cafe on 4th Street. You looked comfortable." He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. "It's not what you think." "Really?" "Because I think my husband would rather spend time with his colleague than his pregnant wife." I turned to face him fully. "I think he's been letting his mother poison me." "She's not. That's not what's happening." He ran his hands through his hair. "Mother just gets fixated sometimes. Ever since Emma." "Ever since Emma what?" I demanded. "What really happened to your sister, Ethan?" Before he could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow, 2 p.m. "I can tell you about Emma." "Gee, who's that?" Ethan asked, trying to peek at my screen. I locked my phone quickly. "Work stuff." 2 could play at the secrets game. Later that night, I lay awake listening to Ethan's steady breathing beside me. My laptop glowed softly as I scrolled through old social media posts, searching for any mention of Claire. I found her easily enough. Claire Martinez, junior architect, recently divorced. There were dozens of photos of her and Ethan at work events, standing just a little too close. But it was another photo that made my blood run cold. Claire at a conference 6 months ago, holding up a herbal tea blend. The caption read, "Amazing gift from my colleague's mom. Hashtag blessed by Lorraine." My hands shook as I closed the laptop. Lorraine wasn't just trying to control me, she was grooming my replacement. The baby kicked, strong and insistent. I slipped out of bed and went to the window, watching Lorraine's shadow move behind her bedroom curtains. She was always up late, always watching, always waiting. I pulled out my phone and looked at the mysterious text again. Gee, could it be George, Ethan's absent father? The man Lorraine refused to discuss? Making my decision, I started packing a small bag, just enough for a few days. I couldn't stay here, not with Lorraine's remedies in every cup of tea, not with Ethan's growing closeness to Claire. Not with the weight of Emma's ghost pressing down on all of us. As I zipped up the bag, I heard footsteps in the hallway, that familiar, measured tread. Lorraine's shadow paused outside our door. "Sleep well, dear," she called softly through the wood. "I'll make you a special breakfast tomorrow. You need to keep up your strength." I waited until her footsteps faded before whispering to my unborn child, "Don't worry. Tomorrow, we're going to learn the truth. And then we're going to decide what to do about it." The baby kicked again, as if in agreement. Whatever secrets this family was hiding, whatever game Lorraine was playing with Claire, I had to protect my child. Even if it meant burning every bridge behind me. Riverside Park was empty except for an elderly man feeding pigeons. As I approached, his familiar profile made my heart skip. He had Ethan's nose, the same slope to his shoulders. George Thompson looked older than his 65 years, but his eyes were sharp as they met mine. "You look just like her," he said quietly. "Emma, at your age." I lowered myself onto the bench beside him. "Why now? After all these years?" "Because history's repeating itself." He tossed another handful of breadcrumbs. "Lorraine's doing it again, isn't she? The teas, the herbs, the constant watching." My hand instinctively went to my stomach. "How did you know?" "Because that's how it started with Emma." His voice cracked. She was pregnant too. 17, scared, and Lorraine thought she knew best. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Emma was pregnant? Lorraine's natural remedies were supposed to end it quietly. Instead, he closed his eyes. The hospital called it complications from herbal poisoning. Lorraine called it God's will. I called it murder. My phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan. "Where are you?" "Mother's worried." "Does Ethan know?" I asked, ignoring the message. He was 12. Lorraine told him Emma died from a rare illness. He believed her, still does. George turned to face me fully. "But you're different. You see through her, don't you?" Before I could answer, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Father?" Ethan stood at the park entrance, Claire beside him. My stomach lurched at their matched stance, the casual intimacy of their body language. "What are you doing here?" Ethan demanded, striding toward us. "With my wife." "Telling her the truth," George said, standing. "Something you should have done years ago." "The truth?" Claire stepped forward, her hand brushing Ethan's arm. "Ethan, maybe we should." "We?" I stood up, fury suddenly burning through my fear. "There is no we here, Claire. This isn't your family." Actually, Lorraine's voice made us all turn. She stood behind us, elegant as ever in her pressed slacks and pearl necklace. "Claire understands our family better than you ever could, dear. She knows the importance of tradition, of doing things the right way." "The right way?" I laughed, harsh and hollow. "Like you did with Emma?" Lorraine's face went white. "Who told you?" "I did." George moved to stand between us. "No more secrets, Lorraine. No more herbs in her tea, no more pushing her aside for Claire. It ends now. You don't understand." Lorraine's voice shook. "I'm trying to protect them. The baby, it has to be raised properly this time. With the right mother." The implications hit me like a physical blow. The tease, Claire's increasing presence, Ethan's distance. It wasn't just about control. It was about replacement. "You're trying to get rid of me," I whispered. "Like Emma." "Mother." Ethan's voice cracked. What is she talking about? But I was already moving, pushing past them all. My vision blurred as I fumbled for my car keys. Behind me, I heard George calling my name, Ethan arguing with Lorraine, Claire's attempts to mediate. I made it to my car just as the first contraction hit. Callie. Ethan reached the car as I doubled over. You're in labor. Let me help. Stay away from me. I gasped, gripping the door handle. All of you just stay away. Through the windshield, I could see Lorraine approaching, her hand dipping into her purse, probably reaching for one of her special tea bags. The second contraction came harder than the first. As I struggled to breathe through it, one thought crystallized with perfect clarity. I had to get out of here. Not just for me anymore, but for my baby. We weren't going to become another tragic story in the Thompson family history. I started the car, my hands steady despite the pain. In the rearview mirror, I watched them grow smaller, Ethan's desperate face, Claire's concerned pose, George's knowing nod, and Lorraine's rigid stance. The next contraction hit as I turned onto the main road. I had no idea where I was going, but I knew one thing for certain, wherever I ended up. It would be far from Lorraine's remedies and this family's poisonous secrets. Lily came into the world at 3:47 a.m. in a hospital 30 miles from home. I'd barely made it, driving through contractions until a concerned truck driver called 911 after seeing me pulled over on the highway. Doubled over my steering wheel. Now, watching my daughter sleep in the hospital bassinet, I felt both stronger and more vulnerable than I'd ever been. The nurses had asked about family. I told them I didn't have any. Mrs. Thompson? A nurse appeared in the doorway. Your husband is here. Before I could protest, Ethan pushed past her. He looked terrible, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes red. Callie, he breathed, moving toward the bassinet. Is she? Don't. My voice was raw. Just don't. He stopped, hands falling to his sides. I've been looking everywhere for you. Mother's beside herself. Is Claire comforting her? The words tasted bitter. This isn't about Claire. He ran his hands through his hair. You're being paranoid. Mother only wants to help. Like she helped Emma? His face hardened. That's different. Emma was sick. Emma was pregnant. I struggled to keep my voice down. Your mother poisoned her with her natural remedies and covered it up. And now she's trying to do the same to me. That's ridiculous. You're not thinking clearly. A small cry from the bassinet interrupted us. Lily was awake, her tiny face scrunching up. I moved to pick her up, but Ethan got there first. Hello, beautiful, he whispered, cradling her. I'm your daddy. The sight made my heart ache. Then I saw Lorraine in the doorway, holding what looked like a thermos. I brought you some tea, dear, she said, stepping inside. My special postpartum blend. It will help with recovery. My arms tightened around Lily. Get out. Now, Callie, she moved closer. You're obviously exhausted. Let me help. Help. I laughed, harsh and hollow. Like you helped Emma? What was in her tea, Lorraine? What exactly helped her recover? Mother. Ethan looked between us, confusion clouding his features. What is she talking about? Lorraine's face went blank, that perfect mask she always wore. Your sister was very ill. Stop lying. I stood up, ignoring the pain. George told me everything. About Emma's pregnancy, about your remedies, about how you covered it up. I was protecting our family. Lorraine's mask cracked. Emma was going to ruin everything with her foolishness. I had to fix it. The thermos slipped from her hands, dark liquid spreading across the floor. Ethan stared at it, then at his mother, horror dawning on his face. What did you do? He whispered. The same thing she's been doing to me, I said quietly. Check Claire's social media. Look at the tea gifts, the special blends. She's been poisoning me for months, hasn't she? Getting me out of the way so Claire could step in. Lorraine's shoulders straightened. Claire understands tradition. Family values. She wouldn't question. My methods, a new voice finished. We all turned to see George in the doorway, holding a stack of papers. Medical records, police reports, toxicology tests, everything you buried about Emma's death, Lorraine. I kept copies. The monitors started beeping as my heart rate spiked. Nurses rushed in, pushing everyone back. You need to leave, one ordered. All of you. Now. Through the chaos, I watched Ethan's face as he read the papers George thrust into his hands. Watched him look at his mother with new eyes. Watched Lorraine reach for him, only to have him step away. But it was the thermos on the floor that held my attention, the dark liquid seeping into the hospital tiles like blood. How many cups had I drunk before I realized? How close had I come to becoming another Thompson family tragedy? As they wheeled Lily out for routine tests, I caught a glimpse of Claire hovering in the hallway, her face pale, waiting to step into my life, just as Lorraine had planned. The nurse gave me something to help me sleep, but I fought it. I couldn't rest. Not with Lorraine still out there. Not with my daughter vulnerable. Not until I found a way to end this cycle of poison and secrets once and for all. The police arrived 3 days after Lily's birth. I watched from my hospital window as they led Lorraine away in handcuffs, George's evidence finally bringing decades of secrets into the light. But even as they put her in the patrol car, her eyes never left the hospital building. Never left Lily. That night, as I was preparing to be discharged, the power went out. Standard generator switch, the nurse assured me, checking Lily's vitals one last time. Nothing to worry about. But when she left, I noticed my phone was dead, and I'd just charged it. The hallway outside was eerily quiet, no beeping monitors, no murmuring voices. Then I saw the shadow in my doorway. "They don't understand," Lorraine said softly, stepping into the dim emergency lighting. "A mother's love means making difficult choices." I pulled Lily closer to my chest. "How did you?" Claire helped. She smiled that perfect, poisonous smile. She's always been such a good girl. Understands tradition. My eyes darted to the call button, but Lorraine shook her head. "The phones are down too. Just for a little while." She moved closer, something clutched in her hand. "Long enough to fix this. To make things right. Like you fixed things with Emma?" Her smile faltered. "Emma was weak. Confused. But I can do better this time. We can start fresh, you, Ethan, Claire. Lily will have a proper mother. I am her proper mother." I backed away, looking for an escape route. "You're just like Emma. Too modern. Too independent." She uncurled her fingers, revealing a syringe. "This will be peaceful. Quick. Better than the tea." "Mother, stop." Ethan stood in the doorway, George right behind him. In the emergency lights, their faces looked ghostly. "You don't understand," Lorraine pleaded, turning to her son. "I'm protecting our family. Our legacy. By killing my wife?" Ethan's voice cracked. "Like you killed Emma?" "Emma was a mistake." Lorraine's composure cracked. "I only meant to help her sleep. To keep her quiet until we could handle things properly. But she was so small, so sensitive to the herbs." "She was your daughter," George said quietly. "Our little girl. She was going to ruin everything." Lorraine spun back to me, raising the syringe. "Just like you're ruining everything now." Several things happened at once. Ethan lunged forward. George shouted. Lily started crying. And Claire appeared in the doorway, holding up her phone. "It's all on video, Mrs. Thompson. Every word." Lorraine froze. "Claire? But you helped me." "I helped you get out on bail because I needed evidence." Claire's voice was steady. "My sister died from your specialty 3 years ago. Different name, different city, but the same herbs. I've been tracking you ever since." The syringe clattered to the floor. Lorraine's face crumpled, decades of careful control dissolving into raw grief. "I only wanted," she whispered, "I only ever wanted to protect us," Ethan finished. "But you destroyed us instead." Security guards rushed in, followed by police officers. As they led Lorraine away again, this time for good, she looked back one last time. "I'm sorry," she said, but I couldn't tell if she was speaking to Ethan, to Emma's memory, or to herself. Later, after the chaos settled, I sat in my hospital room watching Lily sleep. Ethan stood by the window, his father beside him, both men silent with the weight of revealed truths. Claire lingered in the doorway. "I should have told you my real reasons for getting close to the family. Would I have believed you?" I asked. She smiled sadly. "Probably not. We all believe what we want to about family until we can't anymore." As she left, Ethan moved to sit beside me. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said quietly, "but I'd like to try to earn back your trust. For Lily's sake. For our sake." I looked down at our daughter, peaceful in her sleep, unaware of the storms that had raged around her birth. "No more secrets," I said. "No more poison any kind." He nodded, and for the first time since this all began, I felt like I could breathe freely. The Thompson family legacy of secrets and control was over. Whatever came next would be our story to write. 6 months after Lorraine's arrest, I stood in Emma's old bedroom, now transformed into Lily's nursery. The walls were a soft yellow instead of the faded pink I'd first encountered. No more pressed flowers or old photographs, just clean lines and new beginnings. The last box is packed, Ethan said from the doorway. We'd decided to sell his childhood home, too many shadows lingering in its corners. I lifted Lily from her crib, her weight solid and real against my chest. Did you check the attic? Dad's up there now. He stepped closer, tentatively touching Lily's cheek. These days, every interaction between us felt like this careful, measured healing. George appeared in the doorway, holding a small wooden box. Found something you should see. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to Emma, all written in Lorraine's precise handwriting. The dates spanned years after Emma's death. She wrote to her every week, George said quietly. From prison, from the psychiatric facility, even now. Trying to explain, to apologize, to understand herself. I picked up the most recent one, dated just last week. The words blurred before my eyes. I thought I was protecting you, but I was only protecting my own fears. Your child would have been Lily's age now. She's starting to understand, Ethan said, his voice rough. The therapist says it's progress. I placed the letter back carefully. Progress or not, some bridges couldn't be rebuilt. Some poisons lingered too long in the system. Claire had visited yesterday, bringing documents about her sister's case. Other families had come forward, more victims of Lorraine's traditional remedies across decades. The legacy of harm stretched further than any of us had imagined. I have something for you, George said, pulling out an envelope. Inside was a trust fund document for Lily. I couldn't protect Emma, but I can help protect her niece's future. George, we can't. Please. His eyes were wet. Let me do this one thing right. Later, as we loaded the last boxes into the moving truck, I noticed a small package on the front step. Inside was a tea set, not Lorraine's antique china, but a modern one, simple and clean. The note read, 4 new traditions. Claire. I smiled, remembering our last conversation. She decided to start a support group for families affected by medical manipulation and abuse. Turning poison into medicine, she'd called it. Ready? Ethan asked, Lily sleeping against his shoulder. I looked up at the house one last time. Somewhere in the county jail, Lorraine was probably writing another letter to Emma, trying to make sense of where protection ended and control began. Somewhere in the city, Claire was helping other families heal from similar wounds. And here we were, standing on the threshold between past and future. Almost, I said, walking to the garden. Among Lorraine's perfectly manicured roses, I'd planted a small herb garden, sage, mint, lavender. Healing plants growing wild and free. I picked a sprig of lavender, its scent sharp and clean in the morning air. For remembering, I explained to Ethan's questioning look. Not all family traditions have to be toxic. He nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. We'd agreed to try couples counseling, to rebuild our relationship with the same care we were using to build our new home. Some days were harder than others, but we were learning to grow together instead of apart. As we drove away, I caught a final glimpse of the house in the rearview mirror. The morning sun hit the windows just right, making them flash like signals in the distance. Warning or blessing, I couldn't tell. Lily stirred, her tiny hand grabbing my finger. In her face, I sometimes saw echoes of Emma's photos, the same determined chin, the same bright eyes. But she was her own person, free from the weight of Thompson family expectations. No more poison, I whispered my promise to her. Just growth. The lavender sprig on the dashboard filled the car with its clean, sharp scent, covering the last traces of Lorraine's perfume, of old secrets, of carefully steeped control. We were writing our own story now, one honest cup at a time.